Where were Harry's grandparents? One of the biggest holes in the Harry Potter story is the total absence of Harry's grandparents. When James and Lily die, Harry is left on the Dursleys' doorstep. But neither the Potters nor the Evans' parents are ever mentioned. No funeral, no backstory, not even a passing reference. For a story that's usually so detailed about family connections, that silence stands out. We know James's parents must have been fairly wealthy, since Harry inherits a vault full of gold and never has to worry about money. But by the time Harry's story begins, they're simply gone without explanation. The same goes for Lily's side of the family. Petunia is the only relative we ever see. Readers have long wondered, if Harry had living grandparents, why wasn't he placed with them instead of the neglectful Dursleys? The most likely answer is a narrative one. Rowling wanted Harry raised in the Muggle world, away from wizarding privilege. Still, in universe, it's a glaring gap. The fate of Harry's grandparents remains one of the most mysterious unanswered questions in the series. Why not use time turners? The Ministry did possess time turners in Prisoner of Azkaban, and Hermione used one with strict authorization to attend classes. Dumbledore lays out firm safety rules. Don't be seen, don't interact with your past self, and don't try to change events you've already lived through. Book 3 also establishes the fixed timeline mechanic. Everything Harry and Hermione do while time traveling had already happened the first time we see those scenes. Harry's Patronus, Buckbeak's rescue. In other words, time travel in canon isn't a clean redo. It closes loops rather than rewriting history. That alone undercuts the idea of going back to stop Voldemort outright. There are also practical limits. Time turners were tightly controlled by the Ministry, dangerous in a war and vulnerable to interference. The more you push beyond short, targeted uses, the more likely you cause catastrophic consequences, something Dumbledore clearly wants to avoid. Finally, the stock of Ministry time turners is destroyed during the Department of Mystery's battle in Order of the Phoenix, removing them from play. Fans often argue that this conveniently sidesteps larger contradictions. But inside the books, the combination of fixed time rules, risk, and the device's destruction explains why they weren't used as a silver bullet. Sirius, Pettigrew, and the Secret. The Potters hide in Godric's Hollow under the Fidelius charm. Only the Secret Keeper can reveal the protected address. Everyone else, even if they know, can't pass it on. To misdirect Voldemort, Sirius suggests switching Secret Keeper to Peter Pettigrew. Peter betrays them. After the murders, Sirius confronts Pettigrew. Peter fakes his death, kills Muggles with a blasting curse, leaves a finger behind and escapes as a rat. The Ministry throws Sirius in Azkaban without a trial, a point the books make explicit, because the scene and his reputation seem open and shut. Here's the friction. If only the true Secret Keeper can reveal the secret, could the Ministry have magically verified who held it? Canon never shows a spell or procedure that identifies a Secret Keeper. Veritaserum exists but is tightly controlled and resistible. Legilimency isn't a courtroom standard, and post-war justice was chaotic and biased. Those explanations help, but they don't fully satisfy why no one questioned Pettigrew or investigated beyond the staged explosion. The result is a core injustice that feels avoidable, and that unresolved gap is why the Fidelius-Sirius case still reads like a plot hole to many fans. Why not use Veritaserum? Veritaserum is real and potent. Dumbledore uses it on Barty Crouch Jr. at the end of Goblet of Fire, and Umbridge tries to dose students in Order of the Phoenix. It's also tightly regulated by the Ministry, and canon hints at limits. Skilled witches and wizards can resist or circumvent it. Occlumency, antidotes, prepared lies. And using it without consent is illegal. So why not use it to clear Sirius, test Snape's loyalty, or speed up Death Eater trials? Partly, the post-First War justice system was chaotic and biased. Sirius was imprisoned without a trial. Procedure simply failed. Courts also favor pensive memories and testimony, both of which can be incomplete or tampered with. In short, Veritaserum isn't the clean, guaranteed truth button it first appears to be. Still, the underuse nags at readers. Even with legal and magical caveats, you'd expect desperate Aurors or a reformed Ministry to deploy it more strategically. That mismatch between its shown power and its rare application is exactly why Veritaserum remains a lingering plot hole. Map's big miss. The map shows every person in Hogwarts by name. In Prisoner of Azkaban, Lupin sees Peter Pettigrew on it and realizes the truth. Scabbers is Peter in Animagus form. If the map could do that all along, why didn't anyone notice years earlier? Fans point to Fred and George, who owned the map before Harry. They used it to dodge teachers, not to audit every dorm. The display display is dense, and they may not have zoomed into Gryffindor Tower at bedtime to read every dot's name. Even if they had, Peter Pettigrew would mean nothing to them. The name carries weight only for Marauders era adults like Lupin. Also, the map works inside Hogwarts, not in the burrow, so it wouldn't have exposed Peter during summers. Those are fair defenses, but they don't fully erase the issue. Ron slept with a dot labeled Peter Pettigrew in his vicinity for months at a time. With pranksters like the twins and a watchful Lupin around, it's hard to believe nobody caught it sooner. That improbability is why this remains one of the fandom's biggest plot holes. Polyjuice plot holes. Polyjuice is meant to copy a human body from a sample, usually hair. It's explicitly human only. Hermione's cat hair incident in Chamber of Secrets shows what happens when you try otherwise. It also can't copy external gear or magical items. Barty Crouch Jr. used Moody's actual magical eye and hip flask because the potion didn't generate them. Where it gets fuzzy is the voice and the other tells. In Chamber of Secrets, Harry and Ron worry about sounding wrong while posing as Crabbe and Goyle. In Deathly Hallows, Hermione looks like Bellatrix but can't convincingly sound like her, which nearly blows the Gringotts break-in. Yet Barty Crouch Jr. passes for Moody all year, mannerisms and all. Canon never gives a clean rule for what changes automatically versus what you must imitate. Sometimes behavior and voice seem fully on the user. Other times, people accept the disguise with no questions. That gap between a body-perfect potion and variable performance requirements is why Polyjuice often feels internally inconsistent and stays a fan-favorite plot hole. The sacrificial magic gap. Lily's protection shows up in two distinct ways. First, the ancient magic triggered by her willing self-sacrifice makes Voldemort physically unable to touch Harry in Philosopher's Stone. Quirrell burns on contact. Second, Dumbledore places a blood charm tied to Petunia, as long as Harry can call for Privet Drive home. The protection holds until he turns 17. Both pieces are canon and explicitly explained. There is a later parallel when Harry walks into the Forbidden Forest and accepts death in Deathly Hallows. His willing sacrifice extends protection to others fighting on his behalf. Dumbledore's explanation at King's Cross frames it as the same kind of magic, love-born, consented, and powerful, now radiating to Harry's allies during the final battle. So, why isn't this seen elsewhere? The rules make it hard to use strategically. It requires genuine informed willingness to die, not a spell you cast. The Blood Ward version also needs a specific family tie and a protected home. Even so, in a war full of parents and loved ones, you'd expect more examples or historical notes. That silence leaves a gap and keeps Lily's protection debated as a unique miracle or a lingering plot hole. Apparition at Hogwarts. Canon repeats the rule: you can't apparate or disapparate within Hogwarts grounds. It's protected by anti-apparition enchantments, which is why students like brooms, carriages, or boats, and why the Vanishing Cabinet mattered so much. We do see controlled exceptions. In 6th year, the Ministry lifts restrictions inside the Great Hall only, so students can practice apparition under supervision, and non-human magic can bypass the rule. House elves freely pop in and out of Hogwarts. Dobby does this multiple times. Outside Hogwarts, apparition also isn't a universal escape hatch. Powerful wards, anti-disapparition jinxes, injuries, bindings, or simple lack of a license can block or risk a jump. Side-along requires focus and consent. Panic situations aren't ideal. Even so, readers point to moments where a quick jump seems like it would have saved someone, especially outside the castle or just beyond the gates. The books don't catalog every ward or jinx and play scene by scene, so we're left filling gaps. That absence keeps apparition rules feeling flexible to the plot, and that's why this remains a debated hole. Could a bullet kill Voldemort? This question comes up constantly because the books never spell out how bullets interact with magic. We don't get a direct guns versus Protego scene, so canon leaves the physics unresolved. What we do see is that trained witches and wizards carry instant range defenses and attacks. Shield charms, conjured barriers, and rapid apparition can all counter sudden threats. Voldemort also duels at range and kills without warning, which makes getting a clean surprise shot unlikely once you're within the line of sight of someone that skilled. Access is another issue. Key locations in the wizarding world are hidden or protected with concealment and muggle-repelling charms, e.g. Hogwarts, the Quidditch World Cup site, wizarding settlements. Death Eaters and Voldemort operate behind layers of magical protection and wards. Simply getting a shooter close enough undetected is a non-trivial problem inside the rules we do have. So, does a bullet pierce a shield charm? The text never says. The plausible in-universe counters above are why this remains an open debate rather than a solved tactic, and why the series never uses firearms as a real option against Voldemort. Ministry tracking hole. Owls seem able to find people without an address. Harry's Hogwarts letter reach him as the Dursleys move him from home to hotel to hut on the rock. That implies magical homing keyed to the recipient, not a street. The Ministry doesn't run Owl Post. Its tools are narrower. The trace flags underage magic, not a person's location. And the taboo on Voldemort's name lets Death Eaters locate speakers. We see registers like Animagi, but no global tracker. Couldn't they hijack the owls? In Deathly Hallows, authorities open and monitor mail, but interception isn't the same as commanding an owl to find someone. Owls act semi-independently and bond to senders. So, we get an asymmetry. Animals can find you, yet the state can't. Canon gives fragments of an answer, but never explains why homing exists without an official equivalent. So, this remains a plot hole. Why not tell Harry? Dumbledore suspects Horcruxes as early as the diary in Chamber of Secrets, but he lacks proof. In Half-Blood Prince, he collects memories, confirms the Gaunt lineage, and pushes Slughorn to reveal the key talk with Tom Riddle. Only then does he brief Harry and begin Horcrux lessons. He also fears the Harry-Voldemort mind link. In Order of the Phoenix, he avoids Harry because Voldemort can exploit that connection. Sharing everything too soon could tip their hand. Most controversially, Dumbledore withholds the hardest truth. A fragment of Voldemort's soul is inside Harry. He arranges for Snape to explain when the time comes, after Dumbledore's death, so Harry can choose sacrifice without early pressure. Dumbledore later admits he valued Harry's happiness over disclosure. Still, the delay cost trust and lives. He could have shared more after the diary or earlier in Year 5. That unresolved trade-off, strategy versus ethics, is why this remains one of the series' most argued plot holes. Invisibility cloak limits. Harry's cloak is one of the Deathly Hallows. It's described as a true cloak of invisibility. It doesn't decay with age, and it hides the wearer without the usual flaws of common cloaks. Dumbledore even tested it and kept it for a time, impressed by how well it works. But perfect isn't the same as absolute. Some magic and tools still bypass it. Moody's magical eye can see through walls and invisibility. He spots people under cloaks in Goblet of Fire. The Marauder's map labels everyone in the castle by name regardless of disguise. Non-visual detection also matters. Dementors sense human presence and emotions. Filch and Mrs. Norris often notice movement, sound, or lingering magic, even if they can't see the person. Canon never gives a clean boundary between what the cloak resists and what still detects you. If it's truly legendary, why do these countermeasures work so often? That tension, perfect, artifact versus practical exceptions, is why the cloak's power still feels inconsistent and remains a debated whole.